All right, man. All right, welcome back to Man Down Sports, man. Glad everybody's in here. Let's go ahead and get this full episode going. As you can see from the thumbnail, we're gonna start the conversation with the MVP race. Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid. What happened over the weekend? Because we were supposed to have a matchup with them this weekend. It was supposed to kind of decide the MVP for a lot of people, but that didn't happen because Joel Embiid sat that game out for some nagging injuries, and plus it was like I think it would have been his third game in 4 days or something like that. So I think Doc Rivers wanted to rest him. And then at the end of the day, man, he already bust Jokic up last time they played for 47-18. So, it wasn't like he was had something to go out there and prove. Like, we kind of know what's gonna go down. So we're gonna get into all of that. We're gonna get into some of the Charlesbarkley and Kevin Durant beef that's still going on. We want to talk about what's going on with the Dallas Mavericks, and Stephen A. Smith is making news again too, man. So he's gonna be in the news a lot for the rest of this year while he's trying to sell that book. Same thing with Charlesbarkley, but we get into all that. But before we get started, man, if you're not subscribed, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to us on the YouTube page. If you're looking at us right now from Facebook, we would rather you go ahead and go on that YouTube page, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can get all the notifications and you can catch us when we go live. And let's get right into it, man. Starting with Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid. I was listening to JJ Reddit's podcast like I normally do because I think he is an intelligent person who approaches these conversations with a little bit of logic, a little bit of objectiveness and fairness. And the guests that he comes on, they're usually good guests, man. He had Tim Legler on this particular episode. I want to highlight, and I want you to hear what Tim Legler said about the MVP race, and then I'm going to get into all the stuff with Joel Embiid and if he's ducking the smoke and all that stuff, man. But this is what Tim Legler had to say.
Who's your MVP right now?
Finally came to a conclusion on it the other night. And look, we still have 10 games left for these teams. So I guess I can be swayed. But as we sit here right now, I'm strong in my opinion. And I wasn't for a while because I was letting it play out. It's interesting the way that this discussion has changed over the years. It used to be, I didn't really get engaged in this discussion here at ESPN as a broadcaster until like March, April. Now we're a month in, who's your MVP? So this discussion has all these ebbs and flows all year and all these different names, and it's up and down and at different times at different guys in the lead. So I kind of try to, just wait the best I can to be definitive. Because first I'm going to say this. There is not a wrong answer. This is subjective, and numbers go into it and team success. And guess what else goes into it? Personal bias goes into it in terms of who the hell do you like to play? And you got to vote for the award. Who do you like watching play? So that's a personal thing, right? It's subjective. There's no wrong answer when you're talking to these top candidates. For me, it's Embiid. And it didn't happen. I'm not a prisoner of the moment. It didn't happen in one moment, but something happened the other night. I was watching the Cleveland game and he made a play in that game defensively that really just was kind of like this wow moment for me. Like, my goodness, like he's the only guy in the league that could have made that play. And it was a play where Chetty Osman drove down the left slot, came hard at the rim, and Embiid went all in on the block. I mean, jumped as high as he could, had his fingertips like by the top of the square with his full chest facing Osman on the left side of the rim. Osman goes up and then wraps the ball around his back to Mobley, who's standing right under the rim. A 7-footer, quick off his feet, athletic ability. Embiid hit the ground from the first jump without really finding Mobley, just turned and jumped, spinning his body 180 degrees, jumped and caught the ball at the front of the rim as Mobley was trying to dunk it. And it triggered a fast break layup for James Harden going the other way. And I was like, if I look at the comparison, because I think it's between him and Jokic, they'd be my two favorites. Okay, obviously, Embiid is the better raw scorer. I mean, he's just a dominant scorer. Jokic, clearly a better offense generator, like facilitates everything and gets his number every night. Rebounding, both dominant. So how about that end of the floor, man, and the impact that Embiid has? And I think for me, if you're talking about those two guys, and I think they are the two leaders, that is a differentiating factor for me. They basically have the same number of wins. I know Denver's won in the West. But the way Philly's played for the last 2.5, 3 months, I think they've got the best record in the league, I believe, over that time. The impact that he has on that end of the floor as the last line of defense and an alterer of what teams can do, that I think for me this year is the differentiating factor because of these ridiculous numbers he's putting up to go with it.
So, man, everything he said, I've been saying this for a long time, and it's good to hear someone in that type of regard kind of repeat the same thing I've been saying, man. You can't take defense out of the equation when you're trying to figure out who the most valuable player is. And I've always said, if you want to award guys who are getting close to triple doubles and getting triple doubles, create the Offensive Player of the Year award and give them that award. But as far as the value is concerned, you have two ends of the basketball court, and they both are valuable. So your best player, are they valuable on both ends of the floor, and how can you show their value on both ends of the floor? And we know for a fact that Jokic is not valuable on the other end of the floor on the defensive end, but Embiid is. Embiid's defense and shot blocking and rim protecting and being able to switch on screens and being able to be the last line of defense, everything that Tim Legler just said, that adds value to him and to his team. That's value. And on top of that, he's producing offensively 33 points a game, right? And everything he does on the offensive end, he's a threat. Now, as far as generating stats on the offensive end, Jokic got him beat because he's playing a style that allows him to make plays for his whole entire team. So that triple-double has skewed everybody's thought process on what's good and what's valuable and who's good and who's valuable. And as soon as they see anything close to a triple-double, we lose our mind. Like, we're not even thinking about the defensive end. We see that triple-double, that close to that triple-double, we lose our mind. And I hate that the NBA has went that way, but we have to get back to a player being valuable and including defense into that equation. So another thing he said that was really interesting is that he said we know bias goes into it, right? Whatever kind of bias we're talking about, it could be different things, right? You might be biased toward big men, or you might be biased toward guards, or you might be biased toward non-athletic guys, or you might be biased toward guys who get numbers if you're a numbers guy. So you're gonna go with the stats. Everybody has their bias. You might be biased because the candidate plays for your team. There's so many different biases you can have, and I think for this MVP discussion, I think the bias that exists is that those who value numbers, the numbers guys, the analytic guys, what they saying Jokic is doing, regardless of whether he's playing defense or not. They're saying that the guy who's getting the most numbers and the most stats is going to be the most valuable. And then on top of that, if you ever bring in the defensive end into the conversation, those same analytical and those same numbers type guys have analytics out there that exist that'll tell you that Jokic is just as good as a defender as Embiid. Now imagine that. Imagine that you can just watch the game and see that a guy is not a good defender, sometimes don't even put the effort out to defend, and can't block shots because he can't jump, right? And imagine seeing that with your eyes, and then seeing a player like Embiid who's getting game-winning shot blocks. I mean, the type of blocks this dude is getting is unreal, man. I'm talking about he's blocking. Like just last night, they was playing Dallas, and Luka went to the hole. Great play. He made a great play. They were trying to make a comeback. They was down by like 6. They needed this basket. They might have been down 5. They would have cut it to 3 if he would have made this layup. And he took his man to the hole, and Embiid just rotated out of nowhere and got this block almost at the top of the backboard. It was unreal. And that was a game-saving, potentially game-saving block that he got. And they went the other way and scored, right? The block that Legler was just describing on the audio, same thing. I've seen Ja Morant come and try to posterize him. Block, same thing. He's doing this without fouling. And people are thinking twice about coming in the paint because of Embiid. That's what shot blocking, that's what defense is all about. That's what being a 7-footer is all about, right? That's what it was in the 90s. As a small guard, you thought twice before you came down there with the Malones, the Elijah Wines, the Shaqs, the Tim Duncans, the David Robinsons. I mean, you thought twice, the Patrick Ewings, you thought twice about coming down there. Because one, you're going to get contact, right? And two, even if you don't get contact and you try to get that shot off, you're getting it blocked. I've seen Jordan getting his shot sent back to him by Hakeem. Right? That's what defense is for a 7-footer. Right? So if you can see that Embiid provides that and Jokic provides none of that, on top of it, like he doesn't provide the shot blocking at the rim, on top of being slow with his feet and not being able to guard the perimeter either. So where are you valuable at? If you're not valuable in the paint or as a perimeter defender, where are you valuable at on the defensive end? And the analytics guys will show you some type of numbers that'll tell him all that he's just as valuable as Embiid. Like if your analytics goes against what my eyes is telling me, it needs to have a deeper look into it. I can't take the analytics word for it. Like if my eyes are telling me one thing and the analytics tell me something totally different, we got to take a deeper look in it. But one thing that's for sure is that my eyes tell me the same thing that the analytics tells me about Embiid. My eyes tell me he's a great defender, and you look at every metric, every data you can pull, whether it was a simple data like blocks per game, he's averaging almost 2 a game. Right, that's a simple stat, just a stat. Simple. How many blocks you get? 2. All right, well that's value. I can show that. Or if you want to go into the deep end of analytics where you're talking about PER and you're talking about defensive win shares and defensive win shares per 36, like they go real deep into it, and they're going to go as far as they can off the deep end of the analytics until they can find one that says that Jokic is a good defender, and then they'll come present that to you, and it's telling you something totally different than what your eyes are telling you, right? So I don't respect that. So anyway, was Embiid ducking smoke? I disagree. No, I don't think he was. I think that this MVP discussion was coming to a plateau, and the NBA was going to capitalize off this. We got this matchup, and it was just going to be this big game, and Embiid was like, you know what? I'm not interested. I'm not interested. Y'all not going to give me the MVP anyway. Y'all done dick me out of it 2 years in a row. No, I'm not about to come out here and put on a dog and pony show for y'all. No, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna rest this game, and I don't blame him, because what I think was about to go down, as far as the officiating is concerned, what I think that was going to happen is that was going to make it look as interesting as we've been talking about it. Like that, you know, I think that was going to be. It was going to be a hot mess. That it wasn't going to be another game when Embiid outperformed him with almost 50 points and almost 20 rebounds, while Jokic had 24 points and 8 rebounds. Like it wasn't going to be a game like that. It was going to be one of those games where Embiid get 3 fouls in the first half, and you know that was going to get me a week's worth of talking about this MVP discussion. I mean, it was going to put so many eyes on the NBA. This was what it was supposed to do. And Doc Rivers probably was smart enough to say, "Look, man, I think this is a lose-lose for us, man. You go out there, I guarantee you, the officiating is not going to. I mean, it was in Denver too. I know for a fact that officiating was about to be a very weird whistle, and it wasn't going to be in Joel Embiid's favor." You know, after that weekend, they said that Vegas threw Jokic back ahead in the MVP race. That was going to happen anyway. Right? I mean, it was 100% going to happen anyway. If my eyes tell me something different than analytics, I got to look deeper. Yeah, that's facts. That's facts, man. I like the partner in the word. Yeah. What's up, man? Yeah, but what else did Leg say, or what else can we take from this? You know, because like I said, there is a lot of advanced analytics out there that exists. It's gonna tell you that Jokic is a good defender, man. And like I just can't have a conversation with someone And I've been having a lot of conversations because I got several videos on the MVP discussion on Embiid, on Jokic, and the different Nugget fans. Or I mean, y'all can go look at some of those videos now and then go in that comment section. Oh my God, the Denver Nuggets fans. I got one guy from Serbia. Actually, two guys from Serbia that's telling me I'm racist and and telling me I don't, we got his brother, or he calling him his brother, so I guess they're from the same place. Got him into our race war and all this crazy stuff. I mean, they going off on me because I'm telling them that a great elite offensive player and an elite defensive player is always going to be more valuable than an elite offensive player only. I don't care how you stack the numbers. The formula that Philly is using is I'm going to have my best player score my points, and I'm going to have my second best player set up everyone else. And you got Embiid leading the league in scoring, and you got James Harden leading the league in assists. That is a great 1-2 punch. Like, championship teams always have a 1-2 punch, and then maybe a third guy in some cases. But that 1-2 punch is important. Like, you don't see a lot of championship teams where you have one guy who's doing everything. You don't see that a lot, right? And if you do have one guy that's doing everything on the stat sheet, like in LeBron's case, his co-star can score just as good as he can and does score just as good as he can. So the only person who has won a championship the same year that there was everything for their offense, a triple-double machine, points, rebounds, assists, do everything, set the team up, primary scorer, primary facilitator. LeBron is the only one who's able to do that. He couldn't do it in Cleveland when he just had a supporting cast of role players. It didn't work. He made it to the finals, got swept by San Antonio. Then he won 66 games, got put out in the second round by Dwight Howard and Turkoglu. All right. Then he got put out by Boston. Maybe Boston or Detroit. It was one of them, but he couldn't do it. He couldn't win a ring by being primary scorer, primary facilitator with just role players. And that's what Jokic is trying to do. That's what Luka is trying to do. That's what James Harden tried to do. That's what Westbrook tried to do in OKC. All those guys tried to do it, but the formula that they was missing, or the piece of the formula that they was missing, was that when LeBron was doing that, he was a first or second team all defensive player back then. He was a lockdown defender. That's number one. That's something Luka, Jokic, Harden, or Westbrook didn't do. So there was one leg of the formula that was missing. The second leg of the formula that was missing, whenever LeBron did it and it actually worked and he won a ring like that, his co-star was Dwayne Wade. Probably a top 25 player. And then his third co-star, or his second co-star, was Chris Bosh. That's the only way it worked. He had to have that was a super team. He had two superstars, including him. That's three, all three in their prime. And then they still lost with that to Dallas, because Dallas was playing better basketball, and he had to add Ray Allen, who was a top 75 player of all time, maybe top 50. Had to include him, even though he was past his prime, but that's a superstar past his prime, however. So now you got 4 superstars on one team, 3 in their prime, 1 past their prime. And one just happened to be one of the greatest shooters of all time. Right? And then that's when it worked. So look at the formula. In order for LeBron to play that style of offense, he had to stack the deck to win. And even when he stacked the deck, he was 2 for 4, 50%. It's very hard to win when your superstar is the primary scorer and the primary facilitator. LeBron made it work in Miami with a super team. Then he left and was like, all right, I'm going to take the same formula to Cleveland. But guess what? I got this scorer who's a top 5 or top 10 player in the league in Kyrie Irving. And then he had Kevin Love, he's not quite a superstar, almost a little bit less than what Chris Bosh was. So he almost had a super team in Cleveland. And then he went and got J.R. Smith. And what people don't understand about J.R. Smith is the dude is really good. We just seen him when he was just a catch and shoot player with Cleveland. So look at how he stacked the deck in order for him to play that play style. And on top of that, these guys that's trying to copy him are not him. LeBron is a freaking machine. He stopped playing defense, so it got a little harder. but he's a freaking machine. You cannot copy LeBron play style and try to make it work. I don't know. LeBron had to stack the deck in order to make it work. So you cannot reward and celebrate triple doubles like it's like Russell Westbrook should have never got an MVP and sitting in a 6 seed. His team wasn't even winning that much. Sitting at the number 6 seed. Just because you got a triple double, you get an MVP. They should have never done that. Create the Offensive Player of the Year award so we can reward the stat kings. But value is not in stats alone. Value is in winning. So there should never be an MVP who was in the 6 seed. Westbrook should have never got it. Jokic should have never got it last year, sitting in the number 6 seed. And he didn't even average a triple double. He almost averaged a triple double. You get what I'm saying? So like all that, we got to get back to the basics when it comes to all that stuff. Analytics don't tell a lot about defense, deflected passes, hustle, etc. We need to look into stats like how players score a certain percentage when being guarded by them. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And they have that. And Jokic is getting killed in that metric. Absolutely murdered in that metric. Right. So I mean that's my spiel on that, man. So you can already see what my answer is on who's more deserving of the MVP. It's definitely Embiid. I definitely got Embiid number 1. I got Giannis number 2. I mean, this is the dude that got the best record in the league. And he plays both ends of the floor, unstoppable on offense when he want to be. Even though he's not the most skilled player, he can't shoot all that well. You know, he's dominant. You know, and then he gives you that same effort on defense, the same output on defense. You know, so that'll be my 1 and 2. 2 complete players that play both ends of the floor. Anybody who plays one end of the floor is an incomplete player. I mean, that's just by definition. If the complete game consists of offense and defense, and you have a player that only plays offense and he's not that good at defense, then that makes him an incomplete player. You have a player that's good, great, or elite at both, that's a complete player, especially if he's elite at both, like Giannis. And, well, I think Embiid is elite at both. I think Giannis is elite defensively. He's dominant offensively, but I wouldn't say elite because he has too many holes in his game that can be exploited. Like, you can still back 8 feet off of Giannis and make him shoot. Not as much as you could 3 years ago, you know, because his shot has gotten better. But that's still part of the game plan. Like if you looking at film, like, all right, how we go guard him in this action? Just back off of him. Go under the screen. Let him shoot jump shots, especially mid-range. You know, that standstill 3 that he's been practicing, you know, for the last 3 years, he can hit that. Right? But if he's dribbling and he have to stop and pull up from the mid-range, you ain't that ain't gonna be something that he want to do 5 times in a row. Kobe could, if you get Kobe that 5 times in a row, he's taking it and he probably making 4 of them. You get what I'm saying? But Giannis, yeah, if you back off of him and just give him a wide open 3 like he's Rondo, you know, he can knock down 30% of those. You know, enough to make you think twice about leaving him wide open. But he's still incomplete offensively, so he's not elite offensively, but he's dominant because what he does do and what he is good at is almost unstoppable, especially if they're not calling that offensive foul like they should be. Like, he can run full speed into you and just elbow you, body you, spin, knock you down. He can do all that stuff. They're not calling it. Right? They're not calling it. They should, but they're not. So if they're going to allow him to get away with that, then yeah, he's very dominant offensively. Let me get this comments before I move to Dallas. I always thought MVP is what it means, most valuable player. If you take this player off the team as a top current team, can this team win? I don't 100% agree with that because one is a hypothetical. Like, now you're riding on something that we don't know, right? All right, so put it in this case. So Ja Morant, last year, and even to a certain extent this year, when he is not on the team still plays well. And a lot of people, because I think his name was being floated around in the MVP a little bit last year at the beginning, and everybody was like, but man, when he sits out, the team still win. And then you kind of do what you just did and say, well, he can't be that valuable to the team if they can win without him. And I don't think your team falling apart is a good indication of a good leader. Let me give you an example. You look at any other instance or any other entity that has a leader. Let's take the country for example. Let's take the president. The president has a vice president. If something happens to their president, the vice president should be able to take over and run the country just as well as the president. It is not a good look on the president if he goes down, God forbid, for some health reason, he got to get surgery or whatever. And the vice president has to run the country for 2 months and the country falls apart. That's not an indictment on the vice president. That's an indictment on the president as a leader. Like, why would you create a environment that only operates with you and is solely dependent on you, and you're the single point of failure, right? So I don't look at a person's value based on their team falling apart in their absence. I look at a person's value whether how well their team performed in their absence, because that shows that you're a good leader. A good leader is not going to implement something that is solely around about them. I want to empower everyone. You get what I'm saying? A good leader produces more leaders. You look at Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan got a Scottie Pippen as a rookie, coming from a Division II or Division III school. Even though he was a lottery pick, great athlete, not a great player. The mental toughness might have not been there, and that's evident by him sitting out with migraines and doing Eastern Conference Championship game and getting beat up by the Detroit Pistons. You get what I'm saying? Like, he had to get a little stronger mentally and physically, and he had to fix he had to better his game. He came in averaging 7.9 points a game as a rookie, coming off the bench, not playing that many minutes, right? And he turned into a top 50 player of all time. And in Michael Jordan's absence, was able to keep the team afloat, win 55 games, get to the second round of the playoffs, and be in the MVP discussions with Akeem Olajuwon that season, right? That tells me good things about Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan's leadership, because Michael Jordan produced another leader. He produced another leader. Scottie Pippen went on to go to Portland before after he went to Houston. When he goes to Portland and have this young squad around him: Damon Stoudemire, Rasheed Wallace, Brian Grant, Bonzi Wells. Then he had a couple of vets: Steve Smith, Detlef Schrempf, Arvydas Sabonis, and he led that team. He wasn't the leading scorer. He averaged probably about 15, maybe about 5 or 6 assists, maybe about 5 or 6 rebounds. But he led that team. He was the leader of that Portland Trailblazers team. That's a sign of a good leader when you produce another leader. So yeah, I don't look at it. Anybody can create an offense that only relies on them. If Jokic, Luka, James Harden, Westbrook, LeBron James, if the offense is basically them, only they can run it. So when you take them out of the equation, of course the offense is going to be stagnant, because the offense is created to only work with that one guy. That one guy has to be there. So you can create that and make it seem like you're this great leader or this great player because the team falls apart when you're not there. But I don't look at it like that. A team falling apart is not supposed to happen. You get what I'm saying? So I guess the criteria changes often based on the previous awarded MVP. You start thinking, why did they win? Oh, okay. That's what it takes to win MVP. Facts. Yeah. Every guy who wins it sets a new precedence, right? And with Westbrook winning it based on the triple-double, you would think anybody who get a triple-double is going to win MVP. And that's basically what it is. However, the way Westbrook got his triple-double, people started looking deeper into it and was like, well, number one, you're not really leading this team into real wins. Number two, you're forcing this triple-double by hunting down rebounds. So even though he got the MVP for his first average triple-double, he's done it 3 more times. He done it 2 more times in OKC, 1 more time in Washington. But they're not going to put in that MVP discussion just because he got it. No, now you got a new guy that's doing it. It's a little bit sexier again because he's actually winning this year with his triple-double. He's number 1 in the West. Right? So it's kind of like the new Westbrook, but even better because the wins are there. Right? And then, you know, you look at Steve Nash winning it. Like, that's probably the first time someone's won it who doesn't participate on the defensive end. Like, you don't play no D. You won, and you only average 15 points, but you average 10 assists. You will get the MVP because your offense, your team's offense was rated number 1 that season. And then the storyline was real heavy, and it was like, well, he don't have another all-star, and these guys are only scoring points because he's a great assist guy. He's setting them all up. And then you look at it, and you're like, man, Joe Johnson was a number 1 for Atlanta. Like, he left and went to Atlanta. This dude is a real great player. Joe Johnson was unstoppable. Amara Stoudemire was unstoppable. Sean Marion was very good. So you look at those 3 guys he had, and not to mention Barbosa coming off the bench, and Q Richardson averaging, I think he was leading the league in 3-point percentage that year. Like, this dude, the squad Steve Nash had around him was so good. And the storyline back then when he won the MVP was that they were so bad, and he was setting all of them up. The only way they can score this way is if Steve Nash set them up. And that's what it looked like. It really looked like that. So where does the value come from mentioning MVP? Not saying a team is terrible with them, but with them, they play significantly better with them, and that's why they're a top team. Leadership can be one of the can be done from the bench, but what about the games played criteria? That's 2 good questions. So value comes in what I was explaining earlier. There's 2 ends of the court, offense and defense. You have to show me your value on both ends, right? Now, if all the candidates for MVP none of them play defense, then I guess you could pick someone that is that's the greatest value on offense because none of them play defense, right? Okay, that's fair. But if one guy is only valuable on offense and the other candidate is valuable offensively and defensively, it's a no-brainer. 2 is better than 1, right? So if your value is shown on offense based on what you produce, not based on what your team can't produce when you're not there. Like, I don't measure value by a negative thing. How negative is your team without you? That's not how I measure value. I measure value by how positive your team is with you, and that is shown in your team wins. Number 1, show me your team wins and your team success, and then show me what you did offensively and defensively that created that team success. So if you can tie what you do on the court to team wins, then that shows value because it's the only reason why we're playing. We're playing to win games. We're not, you know what I'm saying? We're playing to win games. Team success. So if your team is in a 6 seed, there's 5 teams in your conference that is more successful than you. So it's going to be hard for me to say what your value is when your value is equating to average mediocrity. Right? That's my thing. Value to the league, team winning, which leads to higher jersey sales, fan love. There's a lot that goes into it now. Sure. All right, so let's take a look at what's going on with this Dallas Mavericks situation. Oh boy, so Kyrie Irving gets traded here. They're in the 4th or 5th seed, but they're not playing good basketball. You know, they knew they had to shake something up. And they saw an opportunity to bring in a second star. They a couple of things they got to do. They got to get better. Even though they was in the 4th or 5th seed, they knew they wasn't going far in the playoffs with this team. It was just Luka and a bunch of role players that played good defense, and then you got Spencer Dinwiddie who actually can score a little bit. But You know, that was it. That formula is I mean, it's good for Luka's stats and his numbers, but they knew it wasn't going to win them. And they weren't going to win the playoffs, right? So they went to go get Kyrie because they want to get better. They want a second star, and they want to keep Luka there long term. And they know he needed help. All right. So they go get Kyrie, but the mistake is the personnel wasn't the huge problem with Dallas, because if you look at Kyrie now, he's an all-star. But if you look at what they had last year with Jalen Brunson, he's an all-star as well. They play the same position, right? They had Brunson. They still wasn't a contender for real. They got to the conference finals, but you know, there was some BS on what the refs was doing with the Phoenix Suns. We know good and well they weren't supposed to beat Phoenix. That was the best team in the league last year. They won over 60 games. You know, that was a meltdown by them in Game 7, but in Games 5 and 6 was a complete. I mean, you can go and Google Scott Foster and CP3, and you can see that CP3 is 0-43 in games that Scott Foster ref. I don't know what's going on. That was beating them. I want to say 3-1, and or maybe 2-1. And then they lost and then won. So I think at one point they was up 3-2 and then they lost 4-3. But the games that they lost and the games that had the most questions behind it, Scott Foster ref. You know, I think there's something to be said about that and probably need to be looked into. But that's neither here, neither there. So my whole point of saying that is I'm not even taking that Western Conference Finals appearance that they made as evidence to show that they was on the right track. They were not on the right track with a one-man band. No team is. One-man bands don't work. At some point, you're gonna face a team that has either a one-man or two-man band who actually plays better offense than you and better defense. And that's what Iverson faced. Yeah, he was a one-man band. He got to the finals. You got Shaq and Kobe right there. You barely got a game. Right? Same thing with LeBron. It was a one-man band with Cleveland. He went and faced the Warriors. Case closed. Or one-man band in Cleveland the first time. He went and faced San Antonio. Case closed. So when you face a team who has equal superstars as you, like LeBron is a superstar, and then you face San Antonio, you got Tim Duncan as a superstar. On top of they play great defense and a great sophisticated offense that doesn't rely on one guy, you can't compete with it. So Dallas weren't contenders with how they was constructed. All right, now you get Kyrie. Now you all the way down to the 11th seed, and you're fighting to get in the play-in, and everyone's scrabbling trying to figure out what's the issue. And the issue has been evident there the whole time. You run an offense that is centered around Luka doing everything. You put 5 guys on the court, or you put 4 guys on the court around Luka, and all the big man does is, or any other player, set screen for Luka so he can generate some type of screen and roll action where he gets downhill and either gets to the basket or he dishes out to a three-point shooter. And in that offense, 2 things you can't have. You can't have a big man who wants to be in the paint. So them bringing in JaVale McGee to help with some of their rim protection issues and their defensive issues, it would help if he could get on the floor, but you got him there and you can't even play him because a big man that want to be in the paint who can't shoot threes like JaVale McGee can't be used in the offense with Luka. So now you bring in JaVale McGee and pay him money and you can't even play him. You got to play Maxi Kleber. You'd rather play Bertans over JaVale McGee, right? Then you bring in Christian Wood, another guy who can score on the post. And you won't even start him because he want to go on the post. You got to bring him off the bench and mostly play him without Luka because Luka can't have a big man in the paint. So now you got an issue with this good offensive player that you can barely use. And even when you do use him, he's a three-point shooter, which is the same issue they had with Porzingis last year and the year before last when he was complaining and wanted to get out of Dallas. You got this 7'3" center who, when he was a rookie and sophomore in New York, was being called the unicorn because he was so skillful offensively and couldn't be guarded as a youngster. Scoring in the post, scoring in the perimeter, all of these things. You take this 7'3" monster and tell him, look, you got to be a catch and shoot 3-point shooter when you play with Luka. If you want the ball in the post, you got to wait till Luka go sit down, which is not that often. So he wanted out. So that's the first issue. In Luka's system and in his offense, big men have to be shooters and they have to stand around the 3-point line. Being in the paint is a no-no for them. So now your big man is not in the paint and you're shooting a lot of threes. Yeah, that's going to mess up some of your rebounds. Your big men are not in the paint for the rebound. Your big man not giving you easy buckets as far as post play. So that messes with your rebounds and your offense, right? The second thing you can't have when you play in that Luka system is another dominant scorer who can get his own shot. When you're a dominant scorer, or not even, you ain't gonna be a dominant scorer, just a scorer that can get his own shot. What's the point of you having that skill? Because we're not running that type of offense. We're running an offense where Luka gets a shot for everyone. All you're supposed to do is stand at the 3-point line or set a screen for Luka, right? He would get you the ball for your open shot, and as soon as you catch it, you got to shoot it. That's the offense they're running in Dallas, right? So the issue is not who they bring in to pair with Luka, because they've tried so many people. They had Dennis Smith Jr. had a great rookie year. They bring in Luka the next year and realize that Luka really couldn't play off the ball, so we don't need no point guard. And they traded Dennis Smith Jr. for Porzingis, thinking that was going to work. Then they figured out that didn't work. Then they get Bronson. Bronson, his number 2. It worked a little bit, but it worked better when Luka was not there, and that was Bronson's team. And then he ended up leaving. Then Porzingis left. Now you bring in Woods, and with Woods don't really work as his number 2. Tim Hardaway don't work as his number 2. Then you bring in Kyrie, and you're like, all right, Kyrie's so good, and he did it with LeBron James. It's got to work with Luka. But the issue is, remember I told you, LeBron James is a machine that also played defense and also created super teams. Luka don't have the defensive part of it, and he don't have a super team. They just thought that if we bring in Kyrie, it'll work like he worked with LeBron, and it's not working like that, right? So I was listening to some of the radio stations. I was listening to a 105.3 radio station in Dallas, and they was describing how some of their insiders are telling them that this team has been having multiple team meetings about Luka and that offense and how they hate it. And I'm going to play what they said.
He's very sensitive.
So I do know these, and look, you can take it as my opinion, but it's not really my opinion. I've heard from people. So you can say, well, your people are wrong. JaVale McGee doesn't like Luka Doncic, doesn't like playing with him, and that's why he's pretty much quit on the Mavs 5 games into the season. He's like, I don't want to play with him.
Should have thought about that crap before you signed here, JaVale.
And that was Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd made promises that Jason Kidd did not keep very quickly, and then McGee was like, I don't really care to play in this system with this guy, so I quit. Just give me my $15 million over 3 years. I do know that Tim Hardaway Jr. has recently in team meetings called out Luka and said, I pretty much don't like you. So that's probably tough as a guy who just turned 24, that McGee doesn't like you. Tim Hardaway Jr. doesn't like you. Not so much publicly, but I do know pretty much that Kyrie Irving isn't crazy about playing in this Luka Doncic system. So that's another guy that I know has come out. Christian Wood and him have had obviously issues. Christian Wood came on our station with us and said, yeah, but he's like, Luka yells at me a lot, and I know like I have to take it, this and that. I'm not saying Christian Wood has not come out privately or publicly and said, I don't like this guy. But Tim Hardaway Jr. has. JaVale McGee behind the scenes has. Kyrie Irving is kind of like, look, I have no problem with Luka Doncic as a person. I'm just not crazy about playing in the Luka Doncic offense, and that's why I'm not really crazy about possibly staying here long term. And so I do think there is now all of a sudden, and they're having team meetings about this. Tim Hardaway Jr. is so upset that he had to express his feelings tremendously in a team meeting to say how much he doesn't like Luka Doncic pretty much and stuff like that. And so I think that there's a lot of that going on recently. So you've had multiple meetings where teammates are expressing, we don't really like playing with you. That's not really fun to then want to go out there the next day and be like, all right, high five, guys, let's go. You know, it's kind of like, well, crap, I don't know how to high five you guys or not. You guys don't even really like playing with me.
And it's
So I don't know who his sources is. That radio station is in Dallas, so they got the ear to the street. They got insiders. I think what's one of the Dallas insiders? His last name McMahon. I forgot his first name. But he calls into the show a lot. So maybe he's their source or whatever. But the rumor is that nobody likes playing with Luka for several reasons. Some people because Luka's attitude is horrible. Right. And I think Luka was a person who felt like that he does no wrong. People has been telling him how great he is ever since he walked into the NBA. You're getting players traded like Dennis Smith Jr. so you can handle the ball at the point guard. You're getting GMs fired. You're getting coaches fired. They're bringing in players left and right. Every turn, Dallas was trying to figure out a player who can match Luka and play well with him and allow him to be deficient at his defense. I mean, he's a poor free throw shooter by my standards for any wing player that's going to be going to the line that much. He jacks up a lot of shots from the three. Like it's just his world, and everyone else is in it, and he wants people to be okay with that. And the only people that's going to be okay with that is people that are not that good who wouldn't even have a job if it wasn't for Luka setting them up. And those are the Bertans, the Maxi Klebers, guys of that nature. Like, man, if I'm not sitting here catching and shooting threes for Luka, then I'm probably out of the league. So they're more than happy to sit here and deal with it. But the issue is you can't win with players who are just okay players that just be okay with catching and shoot. If you ever team him up with players who have ability, they're going to want to use those abilities. And you can't use those abilities with Luka because he's doing everything. That's the problem when you have your primary scorer be your primary facilitator. Those are the top two roles that can be operated in, or the top two roles that you could use on the offense. Like either I'm setting guys up or I'm scoring at a high clip. And for Dallas, they got one guy doing both of them primarily. And then everyone else is just going to have to get what he don't want. Whenever he don't want the ball, okay, I'm tired. Let me take a break for two plays. That's the opportunity for his number two to do something. But remember, you can't have two offenses. You can't have an offense for Luka and then an offense for Kyrie or Brunson or Porzingis. So you end up having to run the same offense that Luka is running because that's our primary offense. So it becomes a your turn, my turn deal with his second player. All right, I ran high screen and roll on this side. Now I'm tired for two plays. Now you can do it. So that's what it turns into. Now Kyrie get a chance to do his ISO high screen and roll and do the same thing that Luka does and set somebody else up. And they don't want to play like that now. The proof is in the pudding. If you listen to Tim Hardaway Jr. be interviewed, if you listen to Theo Pinkston and Hardy the rookie, if you listen to those guys talk, if you listen to JaVale McGee, if you listen to them talk when Kyrie first showed up, when Luka was out of the lineup, and they went that 4 or 5 games with just Kyrie, I think they was 4-1. The offense was phenomenal where the ball was moving. That was phenomenal, and they fell in love with it, right? They've been eating fruit off a tree for years, the Luka tree, and then they finally found another tree and they like that fruit better. That's what it was. Like, this is phenomenal. Like, he's actually letting me bring the ball up and create for myself. Kyrie's comfortable enough to do that. He's not going to micromanage the offense, and they fell in love with it. And that's what those team meetings are about. This is what they're talking about. Like I said earlier, JaVale McGee can't even get on the floor with Luka because of the play style. So your best defender at the rim can't even play. And then you look at your defense and you realize that we're the worst defender in the league, the worst defense in the league, or one of them. And we got this great shot blocker on the bench that we can't use because he don't work with Luka. That's a problem. Change the offense. Change the offense. And if every time I watch a Dallas game, if I see Luka running the point, I know they're not serious about winning. The answer is Luka has to come off the ball and play his normal natural position at 6'8" and 1,000 pounds and slow and almost out of shape. You are a forward. You are a 3. The film that you should be watching is Paul Pierce. You should be watching all of Paul Pierce's film and highlights when he was playing in the Boston Big Three and when he was letting Rondo handle the ball. You need to be watching Paul Pierce. That's exactly who your prototype is. Watch a lot of Paul Pierce. Stop trying to do what LeBron do and be the primary scorer and primary facilitator. You're not built like that. Do what Paul Pierce does and give the point guard to a real point guard. Everybody was telling me when I was telling everybody this last year that Luka cannot play like this. Everybody was saying, well, he don't have a choice because he don't have another playmaker. And I'm like, Bronson, what are you talking about? Bronson is a real point guard. Nah, he's not good enough. We need an all-star level point guard. Okay, now you have one. You have Kyrie. Why is Luka still on the ball? Dallas fans, tell me. You told me last year he's the only reason why he's got this high usage rate is because he don't have no help. He's got Kyrie now. Why is he still with this high usage rate? Right? Tell Dallas fans, tell me. Right? Somebody tweeted this, man. It's the best thing I heard, man. He said that the high usage rate was a drug more powerful than cocaine. And he said that Luka Doncic is having withdrawal symptoms because they're trying to take him off of it. Best thing I ever heard. Greatest analogy. And that's exactly what it is. The high usage rate offense was such a drug and he had such a high from it that he was in the press conference saying, I'm not even having fun on the court no more. I'm not even smiling because he can't go out there and just do whatever he want to do and just play whatever he want to do. Everyone has structure except him. He gets to do whatever he want and everyone has to read and react off what he's doing. He can go out there and play 105 Tom Shepard basketball, do whatever the hell he want to do. Who wouldn't be high off that drug? And him not being happy is exactly what happens when you put a crackhead in rehab. They can't stand it. And not Steve Nash, but Jason Kidd just did a post-game interview when they lost last night. And he said that Luka told us that you, Kyrie, and him had a meeting. When was it and what was y'all talking about? And he said, well, yeah, we had that meeting in Indiana. And he basically was saying that he was telling Kyrie and Luka what he expected and how we was going to move forward and how they was going to do that. And if you watch that Indiana game after that meeting, you seen that Luka was off the ball more. He was playing in the mid post and he was making a lot of good plays from the mid post, right? Kyrie was handling the ball, doing his thing, getting other players involved. And 2 or 3 people was touching the ball before Luka got it in the post. By the time Luka got it in the mid post, it was 10 to 12 seconds left on the shot clock. So they ran 2 or 3 actions trying to get a shot for other players. With Kyrie being the focal point in the early offense. You know, this is in half court. They got early offense. Kyrie bringing it up. He's getting into an action, and you got a couple of actions going on one side of the floor. And if they can get a shot from it, great. If they can't get a shot from it, the ball rotated and Luka was in the mid post, got it in the mid post, and he either got great shots or he got assists out of that post. He was still getting his numbers like that. And then Kyrie went to the bench, and now they had a great lead because Indiana played none of their starters. So it looked good from me noticing that, right? And in the fourth quarter, something happened. Christian Wood came in, Kyrie went and sat down, and they went back to Luka ball. And I didn't even have an issue with it. I was like, you know what? That's actually what Phil Jackson told Michael Jordan. You know, when he first showed up, he said, I'm putting in the triangle offense, I'm taking the ball out of your hand. And Michael Jordan didn't like that at first, but he did it. Michael Jordan is a coachable guy. He played for Dean Smith. You know, this guy wants to be coach, or he wanted to be coach, right? So he was pissed, but he took heed to Phil Jackson's leadership. Right. And it worked. But the trade-off that Phil gave him is, look, we're going to run my offense first and foremost. And if we need you to go Michael Jordan hero ball, then we'll let you do hero ball if we need it. But only use it if you need it. That's a mastery skill level of basketball. I got all of this ability I can use, but I'm gonna put it on the shelf unless we need it. Why pull it off the shelf and spend all of that energy trying to do everything on offense when you got 4 other players on the court with ability as well that you can use theirs? Right? It's kind of like when I go play with young guys. I'm not about to be running up and down the floor like I did when I was 25. I'm gonna use them. But when it come down to, all right, man, the score is 15-13 or 13-14 and it's the last shot, I'm taking it. That's mastery level skill level of basketball, right? Luka got to learn that. So I didn't mind him running the offense early and then in the fourth quarter him going a little bit of Luka ball. But the issue was they didn't need Luka ball at that moment because they was up double digits. They didn't need it, but I guess he wanted his numbers, or he wanted that high again. He wanted that high usage high. So he went back to Luka ball in the fourth quarter, but they still won, right? And in the post game that they asked Luka about, what he thought about the offense, and he said something about the mid range and how he liked it in the mid range, and we're going to be doing that more. So I'm like, dang, I'm putting 2 and 2 together, and I'm like, Jason, that must be a point of emphasis. I didn't know about the meeting at first. I didn't hear about the meeting until the post game from last night. So I noticed that they was going to Luka in the mid post more, and he was doing less ISO ball at the top of the key with high screen and roll, and I liked it, and it worked. And I was like, man, that must have been a point of emphasis, right? And then I noticed this game they barely did it at all, right? And I'm like, dang, why would they go back to Luka ball against Philly? And then I listened to the post game conference, and when they asked Kid about it, his exact words was, "Yeah, we had a way forward in Indiana, but it didn't last long." I'm telling you, man, y'all gotta listen to these post game interviews, man. Like they be telling if you can put 2 and 2 together and connect the dots, is all there. And it's funny because before I even hear the post game, I'm already noticing it. I'm noticing they running a different offense and it's working, and I can see the joy is not on Luka's face. That playing in a box to Luka is too stringent to him. He can't play in a box. He has to play loose and wild. That's how he has the most fun and the most enjoyment. He has to play loose and wild. Y'all got to start noticing that. He loose and wild. That is his style. Loose and wild. I get to do whatever I want to. If you put him in any type of structure as a coach, you will be fired. LeBron was the same way. A little bit. That's why he wanted Blatt out of there. Blatt didn't want letting him play the LeBron system. But hey, the LeBron system was working though, so I don't even blame him. What's up, Jay? 1,000. I didn't know what his weight was, but I had to just think of something, man. That daggone step back from Paul Pierce. Yeah. I mean, Paul Pierce is his prototype. Bronson was an all-star. Exactly. People think that just because you haven't made all-star yet, or you made it one year and didn't make it the next, that you're not an all-star. Drew Holiday is an all-star level point guard. Bronson is an all-star level point guard. Harden didn't make all-star this year, but he's an all-star level point guard. Right? People don't make the all-star team for certain reasons. Maybe they got injured, or maybe they playing a different role and people don't understand it. Like in Harden's case, we're used to seeing him being a prolific scorer, but now he's playing with a prolific scorer that's a 7-foot monster, and his job description is to get everybody involved and set up. He's playing a point guard. He's leading the league in assists. You can't give him an all-star nod or all-star vote off of that because you want to see him score. Right, so there's several all-star level point guards. Porzingis was an all-star level power forward. So Luka has played with 2 all-stars, Porzingis and Brunson, and he made both of them look minuscule. He made both of them look like below average players. Anytime you have one player doing everything on offense, everyone else around him is going to look less than what they are because they don't have an opportunity to do other things. The same thing is going on with Jokic. People don't understand that Michael Porter Jr. is one of the one of the greatest young scorers in the league right now. And they're using him like Kyle Korver. He just get all catch and shoots. Jamal Murray is as good as Darius Garland is. But people are not going to see that often because all he get is catch and shoots. And Jokic has took half of his point guard duties. So in order for Jokic to get all his numbers and look like the MVP, you got to take away from your other teammates. They call Westbrook a vampire. That's the true vampire right there. I might have to steal that one. Steal which one, Jay? Hey, man, you can have it, man. Steal which one? But nah, I mean I don't know, man. That's how I see this whole thing. The Mavs are definitely in trouble, but their biggest problem doesn't have anything to do with Jason Kidd or his coaching ability or Kyrie Irving and his leadership ability. The team is telling you they want out of that Luka system, and Luka is not happy with it. Because he feel like he's a target and everyone's blaming him or whatnot. They're just saying, look, bro, there's a better form of basketball we can play, man. Just let's just play it. Right. And it's growing pains because they're, like I said, he's having withdrawal symptoms from that drug of high usage play. It's not easy. It's not easy to come off of that, man. That's one of the best drugs in the NBA. LeBron didn't even want to come off of it. And the Lakers play better when they play more fluent style, equal opportunity style offense because they got the pieces to do it. Like, in order for you to play this one player high usage rate, you have to surround him around average players because average players don't mind playing that, and it's not gonna mess with their head. Like, but if you give a player that can really get it done, and you give him nothing but catch and shoots while watching this guy just play Tom Shepard basketball, it's going to affect him on the defensive end. Like, it affects everything, and it's going to affect his rhythm. Because if I'm a player that's used to giving you a little bit of and get my own shot, and I can barely do that, but I'm watching this dude do it for 4 quarters, right? How am I going to get a rhythm if all I'm doing is standing here and waiting on the pass so I can catch it and shoot it? You get me? So you got to play a better style of offense. If you're the best player, you should be able to adapt to any offense, right? And that's what Michael Jordan did, man. He went from being a high usage player to going into the triangle and barely having the ball. Pippen had the ball more than him. B.J. Armstrong, John Paxson, Ron Harper, Tony Kukoc, those guys was initiating the offense. Michael Jordan was off the ball. By the time he got the ball, it was time for 1 or 2 dribble pull up or fade away in the post or catch and shoot with no dribble. And then every now and then when they really needed it, let's play some hero ball. And that's what Luka's got to learn. Did you talk about how the hell Luka is number 5 in the MVP race and not Fox or Sabonis? I talked about that on my other live. And yeah, man, like I have no clue how they got Luka at still even in the conversation. Like, yeah, he don't deserve to be in the conversation at all. Like, and I predicted it. Like, he was the preseason favorite for MVP because everyone know that he was going to be flirting with a triple double because he's playing in a system that he's doing everything. So everybody knew that, but what people didn't know is that they wasn't going to be winning games. Me, I saw it. I'm way behind, so don't mind me, but this motherfucker was calling him JaVale McGee. Yeah, that's disrespectful, man. I think he did it on purpose too, because he kept saying JaVale McGee. He kept saying it, man. Mavs barely in the playoffs. Yeah, they're not even barely in the playoffs, they out of it. They barely in the play-in. Because the play-in is what the first is 7, 8, 9, and 10. They're number 11 right now. So the Mavs are not even in the play-in at all. All right, so this next thing I want to hit, man. Charlesbarkley is pretty much on a book tour, right? So he was on 60 Minutes, not even an NBA or sports platform. It's 60 Minutes. So the only way he would even take an interview like that if he was trying to sell something or promote something. And we know Charlesbarkley book came out earlier this year or late last year, whatever. His book was out, and what you're supposed to do when you're promoting your book is really go out there and go on several platforms, several different audiences, and reach several different demographics to sell your book. And when you go on these platforms, you gotta have something interesting to say to pique everyone's interest. So everyone usually use their best material. I'll give you an example. When Stephen A. Smith was promoting his book this year, which I'm not even going to give the name of the book because I don't think he deserved the promotion. But when he was promoting his book, he went on all these different platforms. He was just on Dan Libertard last week, which we'll get into a little bit later. He was on so many different platforms promoting his book. And he uses his best material, because if he uses his best material, he's got a better option or better chance of something he say going viral and drawing attention to him in his book. Stephen A. Smith's best material is Kyrie Irving and his rant about him not playing and him not wanting to show up. That's his best material, his most controversial material, where he's going to get the Kyrie Irving supporters mad at him and listening to it and paying attention to it, and you're going to get the Kyrie Irving people who don't support him. So you get both sides coming into the conversation that he started, and it's all for attention and promotion of his book, right? Same thing rappers used to do before their album dropped. They always seem to get in some type of street beef or get locked up and get in some legal trouble right before their album dropped, and it drew so much attention on them because they was getting free press on the news talking about what they just got in trouble about. Well, this is no different for Charlesbarkley. Charlesbarkley, best material is the Kevin Durant beef that he got going on. So every now and then he reheats that beef up just for his own personal reasons. There's absolutely no reason for him to be on 60 Minutes talking about Kevin Durant. None whatsoever. So let's play this clip.
He's very sensitive, great player. He's part of that generation who think he can't be criticized. He's never looked in the mirror and says, man, was that a fair criticism?
We're in agreement. Today's players are a little more sensitive to criticism than your generation.
That would be an understatement.
Man, I wish I could see this dude that was interviewing him on 60 Minutes. I know for a fact this dude don't watch NBA. I know he don't watch no NBA. And he's talking about some, man, yeah, it's fair criticism that today's players in the NBA are sensitive, or very sensitive. And Charlesbarkley said that's an understatement. So two claims he made. One, that the players in the NBA now are sensitive, as if they wasn't sensitive before. And the other thing he made is Kevin Durant is sensitive and can't stand criticism. And there's a difference between criticism and personal jabs, right? A criticism of a basketball player from a basketball analyst, especially a former basketball player who's now a basketball analyst like Charlesbarkley is, giving a critique of a current basketball player in Kevin Durant, a real critique or fair critique would be he doesn't score well from the post. He turns the ball over too much. He's not playing defense. I don't know, just something related to the actual game, right? But coming on and always saying he is sensitive, right? He's not sensitive to critique when it comes to basketball critiques. But Charlesbarkley is not critiquing him on basketball. He's saying we're not going to respect you until you win a ring by yourself. And all Kevin Durant is saying is, I don't want y'all respect. Like, so basically what's happening is Charlesbarkley is taking a jab at Kevin Durant publicly, and Kevin Durant is responding publicly on Twitter by saying, Charles, I don't care. I'm not playing for your respect. That's basically what's going down. And what Charlesbarkley is bad at is that he feels like that I should be able to criticize you and take jabs at you, and your response should be where I'm going to do what the old head is suggesting that I do, because that's exactly what Charlesbarkley said. He said when LeBron James won 2 in Miami, the old heads told him, well, you got to win one by yourself. So LeBron James left Miami and went back to Cleveland and quote unquote won by himself. And he's saying that gained the old heads respect. That's what Barkley said. And Kevin Durant's response on Twitter was, when did LeBron say that he was going to go win one so he can gain y'all respect? Because I don't remember him saying that. And Charlesbarkley is bad because Kevin Durant pointed that out and he calls him sensitive. What he want Kevin Durant to do is like, all right, y'all want what team y'all want me to go to? Like, okay, I can't go to Phoenix. All right, what do y'all want me to do? That's what they expect Kevin Durant to do. They expect Kevin Durant to say, okay, what are the old heads saying that I need to do to gain their respect? Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. And Kevin Durant is basically telling everybody, look, it doesn't matter what y'all say, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Like, I'm not playing for y'all respect. And Charlesbarkley is not comprehending that, and he doesn't like it. Like, I should be able to push your button and make you do things that we want to see for our own personal gain and entertainment. Like, I want to see you go win with a team that I feel like is not that good. I want to see you do that. And you know, so I mean, so that's the whole thing, right? Now, the too sensitive comment caught the eye and the ears of Jason Williams, and he said something that I've been saying for about 5 years now. Well, if it's sensitive for Kevin Durant to respond on Twitter to Charlesbarkley, then what does it mean that Michael Jordan stopped being your friend over something you said publicly at Charlesbarkley, right? So Charlesbarkley years ago, probably about 10 years ago, had made a comment about Michael Jordan and his ownership abilities with the Charlotte Bobcats, Charlotte Hornets. And he said that he's not a very good owner or GM, and he got people around him that he don't need around him, saying that type of stuff publicly. I mean, I don't even know what the point of even saying that. Like, you got to be smart enough to find ways to say things where you're not trying to say things for shock value. What Charlesbarkley argument is my job is to analyze everything in sports, and just because you're my friend don't mean I can't tell the truth. But me personally, my job code can't be higher than my code personally as a person, right? There's some things I'm not going to do that I don't even know if my job required me to critique my friend the way Charlesbarkley did, but he's saying it requires him to be able to do that because he won't have any credibility if he doesn't. But there's ways you can do it. Like, there's really ways you can do it. And Michael Jordan didn't appreciate the way you did it, and he stopped talking to you. So if it's sensitive for Kevin Durant, and this is what Jay Will said, and this is what I agree with, if it's sensitive for Kevin Durant just to tweet Charlesbarkley, I don't care what you respect, I'm not playing for your respect. If that's sensitive, then what do you call what Michael Jordan did by just cutting off a whole friendship because of something you said, Charlesbarkley? Or if that is sensitive, what do you call Michael Jordan having a chip on his shoulder about getting cut from JV when he was in 9th grade, and all the way up to his Hall of Fame speech, he invited the guy that they put on the team over him to his Hall of Fame inductance and belittled him in his speech and said something about the coach that chose him over him. That's sensitive, right? It's sensitive that Michael Jordan heard people talk about him in the media and he refused to do interviews with them, and he only interviewed with Ahmad Rashad, right? So if you're going to say that just this generation is sensitive, the GOAT who played in your generation is the most sensitive basketball player ever. And what the truth is about sensitivity and superstardom is that all superstars are highly sensitive because everything fuels their fire. So it's not even a bad thing to be sensitive. I don't know why he keeps using this as a way to poke fun at Kevin Durant. It's good to be sensitive because it drives you to do better. Everything you say when people say, yeah, you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that, I'm gonna take that on. I'm gonna put that chip on my shoulder and I'm gonna show you. And then after I do it, I'm gonna point my fingers at you. But Kevin Durant is doing it different. He's not waiting till after he do something. As soon as you say something stupid, he's going to say, that's dumb and I don't care. And then he goes out and drops 40. There's nothing that has happened that has changed Kevin Durant's game. No matter what Charlesbarkley or Shaq or anybody that's an old head says, Kevin Durant continues to go out there and be the best player in the league. So, I mean, that's my whole thing on it, man. Let me get to these comments real quick. Barkley ain't wrong. KD not the only one. More like Luka being sensitive, but Barkley gonna say KD because that's a better headline and better crowd. If he mentioned Luka, his fan base would cause Barkley to get blackballed. I agree with that. I ain't even gonna lie. Now Barkley about to be on CNN. Oh, seriously? Barkley gonna be on CNN again promoting his book. And guess what his best material is? Kevin Durant. How much y'all want to bet that he gonna say something about Kevin Durant in this interview? I'm telling y'all gotta peep the game, man. Whenever now the best material that Stephen A. Smith used to have was Kwame Brown years ago. He said that almost every chance he got. You know, that's his better. Like it's like seriously, man. It's like wrestling promos. Once they find what drives the most clicks when they say it, they just memorize it and they just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. It's almost like a comedian who finds 2 or 3 good jokes that always work. And like a lot of people say, Mike Epps say the same jokes all the time. Man, you'll see for 2 straight years, Mike Epps will do probably 10 shows, and all 10 shows he recycling the same jokes. Yeah, and that's all these guys are doing. The best material I got for Charlesbarkley is Kevin Durant, so I'm gonna go to that whenever I can. And Stephen A. Smith, the best material he got is Kyrie Irving. The worst thing for Stephen A. Smith was for Kyrie Irving to leave Brooklyn because, man, his material really was working well when he was in Brooklyn because, you know, he was with the team that was number one, the same place where a lot of his problems really started. So he could just really, it really hit home when he talked about that because it was so fresh and he was still with that team. And 2, because Joe Tsai is a new owner and Sean Marks is a new GM, and both being dumb, they was buying into everything that Stephen A. Smith and the media was saying, and it was affecting Kyrie Irving. Like they would hear Stephen A. Smith say something about Kyrie, and then it was almost like Sean Marks was listening, and then he'll inflict some type of punishment on Kyrie based on something he heard Stephen A. Smith say. It was just weird the way it was doing it. Dallas is not that gullible. Mark Cuban's not that gullible. The GM in Dallas is not that gullible. So whatever Stephen A. Smith is saying is falling on deaf ears. It's not really getting to Kyrie because Dallas has been kind of a protection for him. But if he could reheat them old takes on Kyrie, he guarantee he will. You know, he needs that material. And if it don't work for Kyrie no more, I think at the end once Kyrie signs his deal, $200 million. If he signs his deal, it's over. Like because most of Stephen A. Smith rants about Kyrie is about him not getting his deal. This is why he shouldn't get paid. This is why he shouldn't get paid. He don't show up. Blah. All of those things is geared toward him not getting his contract. But once he gets that contract, it's going to be hard for Stephen A. Smith to talk about anything unless Kyrie gives him new material. And speaking of Stephen A. Smith, all right, so what did he say? So Stephen A. Smith went on Dan Le Batard's podcast promoting his book. Another guy promoting a book, just like Barkley, promoting his book. And Le Batard said, "Man, look, man, I hate what you and Skip Bayless did to sports media. Y'all ruined it. Y'all ruined sports media." And Stephen A. Smith got heated, got hot. They got into it a little bit. And he said, "Look, man, you're not innocent either. You're thriving off of what we created." And then he said, "Look, man, it's about the money, right?" Look, man, I really don't like talking about this dude, man. But whenever I get a chance to kind of prove a point on what type of person he is, like how many times have we heard him say it's about the money? He said this is theater. You get what I mean? Like, yeah, I think he was on a show with JJ Redick last week, and JJ Redick was getting annoyed by the Charlesbarkley sensitivity comment about his generation. And Stephen A. Smith was like, "Pause real quick, man. JJ Redick, don't take it so personal, man. Look, this is for the show. He pretty much told her, look, man, this is just for the show. You don't got to take everything personal. Just give a good argument that's for the show. It's for the show. Like we all know this is clicks for a show. This is theater. He don't believe half of stuff he's saying. But I thought it was interesting. Dan Libertard said he ruined sports media. I really agree. I really agree that sports debate, the hot take part of the sports, all of that ruined it. I put a poll up in the community tab on the YouTube page, and I asked everybody who was the greatest sports analyst or who's the GOAT sports analyst. And the options were Charlesbarkley, Stuart Scott, Stephen A. Smith, Colin Cowherd, Skip Bayless, right? And I check it real quick before I even go, because last time I looked, everyone either voted for Barkley or Stuart Scott. I don't think no one voted for Stephen A. Smith. But I'm about to double check real quick. Oh man. So 47% Stuart Scott, 33% Charlesbarkley, 13% Stephen A. Smith, and 7% Skip Bayless. I can't believe somebody voted for Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless. But almost half Stuart Scott and then 33% Charlesbarkley. So that lets you know what people think about Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless, and it also lets you kind of know, how it's split, because you do have these new fans of NBA who actually like the hot takes and who actually like the debate and all that stuff. But there's a lot of people that's on my side of the fence that appreciated what Stuart Scott did. There was some honesty. There was a high level of professionalism. There was still art to it. There was still journalistic integrity in it, and what Stuart Scott did. But at the same time, he was hip. He was happening. He was now. He was different. He was fashion forward. He was all those things in one. And God rest his soul, I wish he was still here. Now we got into this space where Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp and Nick Wright and Stephen A. Smith, and this stuff is like unreal. Like, I've never thought that I would see a professional analyst on national TV having a personal beef with a player that's going on over the span of 4 or 5 years, and you're taking personal shots at this kid on national TV to the tune where his dad had to come at you and contact you via phone and tell you is on site. Like, imagine that, man. Like, this is weird for Stephen A. So yeah, he absolutely did murder and bury sports media. It's dead. It's in the coffin. It's dead. And ESPN has been bought by Disney, and they're thinking about selling ESPN. This year, this month they just announced that they're doing cutbacks, and I think it's like 1,000, maybe even more than that, jobs is about to be lost. Even Stephen A. Smith mentioned it on his show, said, I'm not sure if I'm safe, but more than likely I will be, because he knows what he provides to ESPN is more than just analysts. I mean, he does some things for the owners as well. Like some of his personal beats he's taken with players has been on the behalf of the owners, and you can't tell me anything different. There's no reason for this guy not to be a doctor, to be so adamant about the jab going against Kyrie Irving. That was something he did that was beneficial to the team owners and the NBA, because the NBA there was bleeding money. They couldn't afford to go a whole year without no basketball games. They needed that bubble. And had that tournament. They needed to make money. And Kyrie Irving was putting a group of people together that was going to go against that. They would rather go and fight for social justice for George Floyd rather than go in the bubble and play, while they was putting themselves in danger, and they couldn't even go see their own family until the bubble was over. Paul George said he almost went nuts in the bubble. He said it was the hardest thing he ever had to do mentally was be in that bubble and not be able to see his family. Right? But the NBA needed that. So when Kyrie Irving came out and was like, hey man, we probably should not go in the bubble, he made himself an enemy of the NBA, and the NBA needed Stephen A. Smith to go out there and come at this dude so hard that everybody else in the ESPN media followed suit. And then what happened is the fans that follow Stephen A. Smith and that style of journalism, or that style of being an analyst, they all came against Kyrie as well. Then the next year he came out and said, I'm not getting the jab, which also went against what the NBA was trying to do. And Stephen A. Smith came after him again. This is not a coincidence that he's coming after him like this. What he's really doing is doing what the NBA needs him to do. And the NBA and ESPN are partners. Right. And Stephen A. Smith is the face of ESPN. He's their highest paid analyst. Like it's easy to connect those dots. So yeah, he ruined sports media. He's a freaking double agent. Not a respectable guy. Don't like him at all. And that's how I see it, man. But I mean, that's let me get these comments before I get out of here. Thin line between sensitivity and passion. And you say that to say, well, what's passion and what's sensitivity? I mean, a sensitivity is if I'm sensitive right here and you touch that and I react to it, that's sensitivity. Right? So if you say I'm a bad owner, that's you touching this, and my reaction is we ain't friends no more. Right? So that's MJ being sensitive, or you getting cut from your JV team and you still being sensitive about it 30 years later to the fact that you wore that chip on your shoulder your whole career. That's sensitive, but it's sensitive in a good way. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with him being that sensitive. All I'm saying is Charlesbarkley is trying to use sensitivity as a tool against Kevin Durant to poke fun at him publicly. That's his way to get back at Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant won't allow him to be the OG that pushes his button and makes him do X, Y, and Z. He won't allow him to be a puppeteer and say, Kevin Durant, you need to go to this team, and then Kevin Durant go actually do it. Think about how dumb I would rather be sensitive than be dumb. Think about how dumb it would be for you to hear Charlesbarkley say Kevin Durant needs to go win with this type of team, and then you go do it. That's dumb. And the funny thing about it is they told Kevin Durant that it was a bad move for your legacy to go join Golden State and win, and told him you need to leave Golden State. And then Kevin Durant left Golden State, not because people was telling him to. He left Golden State because the relationship was sour based on what went down with the Draymond Green thing. So he left based on that. I go do my own thing, man. Y'all, I'm not really wanting to hear y'all done told me in so many words that I'm not part of the original core, and y'all don't see me like that. So look, man, all right, y'all do it on your own. I go do my own thing, right? So he left and went to Brooklyn. And then these same people that said it was a bad move for him to go join Golden State came out and said it was a bad move for him to leave Golden State. Imagine that. Imagine you tell me this messed your legacy up because you joined Golden State, and then say this messed your legacy up because you left Golden State. Stephen A. Smith went on air and literally said your move to Brooklyn is always going to be remembered as you leaving Steph Curry to join Kyrie Irving. And that's a bad thing. But these same people said you need to leave Golden State. Come on, man. These people crazy. Yeah, Stuart Scott was relatable, man. But yeah, man, that's all I wanted to get on here and say, man. I'm at an hour and 28 minutes. I did good on time. I had in my mind an hour and 30 minutes, and I'm already at an hour and 28, man. Perfect. So appreciate y'all being in here, man. Everybody that's watching on Facebook, man, go on YouTube, leave a like, subscribe if you didn't subscribe already, man. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.